Old man doing a podcast. Real weirdos. We have English degrees. Real weirdos. We talk about movies for way too goddamn long. Good morning.
Good morning, Marky Mark Wahlberg.
That's me. I'm Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg here.
An enormous cock. It's made of rubber.
Mark Wahlberg from Ted.
I wonder, like, he said, like it's like the trivia said. You were saying, like, Mark Wahlberg still has that cock. Now, I'm wondering, in what capacity does he still have that cock? Like, is it just in a box somewhere in an attic or a storage unit, or is it like on a mantelpiece on like a pillow?
Probably not. I think, like, I was reading like a little interview with him, and not that he like disavows boogie nights or something, but he says he kind of regrets it because he's like a Catholic and has children now, and he's like, I can't. It's a hard one to explain to my children.
Is it though?
Apparently to him.
Like, is it hard?
It wouldn't
like,
be
I'm
to
an
me.
actor.
It's like, dude, that movie made your career.
God, that makes him so lame.
I just don't understand that kind of shit. Like, how do I explain this to my kids? Well, it exists. So you would explain it in the capacity that it exists in. Like, I don't understand why people treat their children like they're fucking these little, like, innocent angels that can't be exposed to. It's like, I watched Boogie Nights when I was 10. I watched it by myself. I was like, all right, cool. Shit's weird. You know, I was like, this movie's weird.
I don't understand Catholics either. I don't understand a lot of things about people.
I don't.
Talk about a career that's almost kind of gone in like reverse for me, at least.
Definitely.
I don't think he's good anymore, honestly.
Definitely, no. I don't really think he has much like depth anymore. I think he's kind of just where he's at, and he's kind of like fitness and.
I think he could be. His new movie looks interesting. It's just like a drama about the father losing his son. And that looks like it could be a really good performance. I just think he doesn't generally or hasn't cared in a little while. Like, he's just taking the big movies, like he's in Michael Bay movies and stuff like that, and like America movies, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like where he's like on an oil tanker and it blows up and it has patriotic music going, or like he'll play a soldier, you know? Very like America dad movies.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like he doesn't have that kind of. I think the last movie that he was in that I liked was Four Brothers.
Oh yeah. That movie was interesting.
Like, it wasn't a great movie, but it was like a cool little, like, hard nosed. He kind of played that same kind of Boston hard edge that he always does. But yeah, Four Brothers was interesting, and that was like the last thing I saw him in. That was like, all right, this is fun to watch. It's like Ethan Hawke. Last thing I saw Ethan Hawke in was the Precinct.
I think it was Boyhood for me.
Fucking Boyhood. Everyone loves that movie or hates it. That movie has such a weird reception.
I'm pretty in the middle for it. I mean, I'm impressed by the project and production of it for sure, but meh. I don't know.
It took 12 years to make Alex. Has to be good.
Yeah.
Oh man, are you fucking kidding me? He's Sully in the Uncharted movie?
Oh, he is? He did get cast in Uncharted.
See, I don't know the Uncharted games. Sully is the guy that like leads Nathan around, right? He's like the
he's
boat
like
captain.
he's like the old cigar smoking guy.
Yeah,
who
okay.
is not anything like Mark fucking Wahlberg. Although also they cast Spider-Man himself, Tom Holland, as
Nathan
Drake. So
wow.
like, go
Really?
fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself.
Wow.
Did they really?
I mean, that's funny because like,
he's
out of
fine.
he's
no
fine.
problem
He's a
against
good
him,
actor. Like, I'm cool
but
with
not
Tom Holland.
Nathan Drake.
No, who would play a Nathan Drake right now?
I mean, they did the fan film with Nathan Fillion, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, but I mean, he's pretty old now.
It worked, but yeah, I mean, I think the reason that they're doing this, like Mark Wahlberg is 20 years younger than Sullivan was, Tom Holland is at least 20 years younger than fucking Drake was, is because they're doing the thing. You know, it's like, let's make sure we have the paddings to have endless sequels.
Yeah.
Which they're not gonna, because it's gonna bomb, because they're doing it cynically to begin with.
Yeah, and also, like, video game movies notoriously just don't ever do really well.
Apparently, this Last of Us series or movie they're doing is like really high budget. It's like rivaling Game of Thrones per
See,
episode.
that's the thing is like Last of Us, you can do that because Last of Us is not a adventure game that's like puzzle focused and like what makes the story of Uncharted is great, but it has more mechanically involved aspects to the game. Whereas in Last of Us, it's like it's a narrative game, you know, like there's some cool shooting and good stealth elements, but the game itself is about the writing and the narrative. So you could easily do a good show about that.
They didn't even get a good director for this. It's Ruben Fleischer.
I have no idea. What has he done?
Let's see, Zombieland and Zombieland 2 and
People
Venom.
fucking love Zombieland, bro.
What is Zombieland? Let me
That's
see.
the one with Woody Harrelson
It's
and
where Woody Harrelson wants Twinkies.
and the Facebook kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember it. I don't remember it being good.
But it's like a cult, like not even cult. Like people love Zombieland.
They do.
Yeah.
It's
Adam talks about Zombieland a lot.
yeah, people love that.
I'm
movie.
like, sure.
What was the other one you said?
Venom.
People love Venom too. The Tom Hardy
People
one.
don't love Venom.
Okay, and
People
that's true.
think Venom is acceptable.
Yeah, so okay, people don't love Venom, but people accepted Venom, which is to me good enough because basically in this time it's like movies either bomb or do well.
I guess that's not a mark of quality, though.
It's not. Well, I mean, it's a Venom movie. I mean, what did
It
you
has
expect?
the money behind it.
It's a PG-13 Venom movie.
Like, what did you think? Like, did you think that they were gonna do a Logan style Venom movie?
The door's open to do that.
Yeah,
They
but
should
they're
have
not
done
gonna
that.
do that, dude.
Why?
Because the movie industry doesn't take chances like that.
They're starting to, in the superhero realm at least.
I mean, I agree that Logan's the best superhero movie ever made.
It is, because it's not one.
Exactly, and that's why I love it
It's
so
like
much.
a miserable Western.
Have
Did you
seen
guys like the
Logan?
Nolan Batmans?
Yeah,
I liked
those are great.
Dark Knight.
Got
I
it.
didn't like Batman Begins. I thought that movie was pretty boring and derivative.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that the other one with Tom Hardy was just not as... I don't know. You know, Heath Ledger's performing... I mean, we don't have to go into why Dark Knight's the better movie. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's just...
Well, it wisely doesn't try to make Tom Hardy the same kind of thing. The movie's about something else.
yes.
I did see Logan,
yeah.
though, and I did like it very much.
Logan is great. Like, it's so just... I could rewatch that movie a lot. Like,
I'd be happy to do Logan on the podcast.
I think we should do
at
an
some
episode of
point.
Logan. I think that would be a good... Because it's like, we're not going to do any of the Marvel movies ever. At least in my world, I guess.
Yeah, no, I'm the one who would choose those, but I'm not going to because I don't want to have that conversation for an hour with you.
Yeah, it's just... yeah, exactly. It's
I really don't.
yeah, it's just not a...
It'd just be frustrating.
Yeah, just... I don't know.
It wouldn't be fun. It'd just be frustrating.
So there's just not a... But Logan would be a cool episode.
Because I'd be like, these elements are well done. You're like, no, it's shit.
I would not
Like,
be
no,
like,
but
no, it's
these-
that's when we're just talking between me and you. If we're actually going to have a conversation about it on the podcast, then I'm going to actually put in the reason.
Well, we might
why
at some
I think it's
point. We
shit.
might do we could do the new Guardians of the Galaxy or something like that.
There's going to be
that
another
we all
one?
like. Of course. Why would they
Jesus,
stop?
I don't know, man, because I just have hope for the world.
They're gonna do
sometimes.
it. We'll end with Thor in it, I think, or something.
What? Oh, yeah, because he joined the crew, apparently, or tried
Yeah,
to.
which sounds
Ah.
amazing. I can't wait for that.
Oh my god, dude! I hate you sometimes. I hate that sentence just came out of your fucking mouth. Thor's gonna join the crew of Guardians of the Galaxy. I love it. I can't
Yeah.
wait.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be hilarious.
Oh, fuck. There'll be plenty of 70s soft rock, too, which is getting really fucking old. I'm sorry. But, I understand it's cool juxtaposition when you have, action and, cool poppy 70s songs, but now it's just, so fucking formulaic, and that's all they do. And I'm like, can we just get over this?
Yeah, I agree. Yes, that was cute in the first Guardians, where he's
Yeah.
coming out of the ship, and it's oh, he's listening to old music, and it's the
From his mom.
future.
Yeah,
cool. That's cute.
Well, now it's hackneyed now because everyone is doing it.
Exactly.
Exactly. Outside of
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy as well.
It's like Suicide
everywhere.
Squad tried
Yeah.
to do it and failed,
Yeah.
along with everything else it tried to do.
Oh man, that movie was so bad.
Interestingly, James Gunn, the director of Guardians and Guardians 2, is doing the new Suicide Squad movie.
All right, well, that's the thing is, like, I wanted to like Suicide Squad. It was just a big pile of trash that made no sense. And
It was a movie that was completely ruined in editing.
yeah, it just had no, like, everything. It just didn't make any sense. Like, there was no cohesive through plot line to it. It was like there was this side plot with the Joker. Anyway, I'm not going to get into Suicide Squad. I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
But it had potential. It
the
did.
new one might be good. It has James Gunn directing and writing it, so it probably will be good.
Yeah.
Everything he does is good, in my opinion.
What has he done outside of Guardians? I'm not really familiar with
so
his...
he started out with Trauma.
Trauma.
And he did stuff for Trauma, like Lloyd Kaufman, like low budget horror stuff. He
Okay.
did Slither.
Oh, okay. He did Slither. Wow.
And then he did Super,
Okay.
the Rainn Wilson one.
Yeah.
The Rainn Wilson, like, superhero-ish movie. It's like, yeah, that movie's a lot of fun.
He did Scooby-Doo.
And then he went in to do Guardians of the Galaxy.
He did
Not
Scooby-Doo, like the one with, like, in the 2000s.
He did not do Scooby-Doo.
No. He did not do it.
Okay. I was like, he did those early 2000s Scooby-Doo movies with, like, Freddie Prinze Jr.? That's an interesting turn. Okay, Paris, Texas. Let's get into it, folks.
Speaking of Scooby-Doo, let's talk about Paris, Texas. What's up, my friends? You guys.
Oh, I thought you were talking to the audience.
Oh, yeah, it could have been either one.
Yeah, I don't know. Never know with you.
We don't know how to start or end podcasts.
I think
just
that's the
a thing.
charm. I think that's the charm of this podcast.
Well, hopefully.
Hopefully there's some kind of charm to be found
Especially
in
with
this
our
podcast.
new theme song.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly. I'm glad. I hope you folks liked it.
Yeah.
It was produced and performed exclusively by Jesse Ketman and his Mouth Orchestra.
Yeah, I had David Bowie come in from beyond the grave, do a little soul with me.
Yeah,
do a
just
little
summoning
writing.
that energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds like just like Ziggy Stardust.
I do. Ziggy played guitar. I won't do that. Today we're talking about Paris, Texas, which I had open, but now I have James Gunn and Tom Holland open somehow. Our last discussion. Let me pull this up. But Paris, Texas, it's a movie from 1984 starring Harry Dean Stanton. And this is Alex's pick. And Alex, why don't you go ahead and tell us what the deal is with this and why you chose it?
So I chose it because I wanted to talk about the idea of slow burn in film. And I've always been someone who says that he likes slow burns. And when I saw this movie, it might be one of the slowest burns I've ever seen.
It is, yeah.
I mean, slow. He doesn't. There's no word that we have invented that categorizes how slow this fucking movie is.
I will say that the Donald Trump election.
Oh my
This is going to get weird, right?
Oh,
Yes.
hello.
I saw people out and about with these red hats on, and every time I
made
would
you think
see
of Harry
one,
Dean
yes,
Stanton?
every single time I would see someone walking to like the superstore or something, I would always think of Harry Dean Stanton. Because let me give a quick synopsis here. The film opens with the landscape shots of the American desert, presumably Southwest Texas area. We see Harry Dean Stanton kind of just wander out of this wilderness, and he's like looking for water, and he's obviously lost. He gets picked up by a doctor, found by a doctor, and he's basically mute. And he has a business card with him that is Walt Anderson on it. Walt Anderson ends up being this man, Travis's brother. So the doctor calls Walt and says, "Hey, I found this guy." Walt's like, "Oh my God, I need to go and pick up my brother." And you realize that Harry Dean Stanton has been missing for 4 years. People thought he was dead, things like that. The movie is basically him re-engaging with his old life. There's a son, fatherhood, there's romance, and a girl involved with that. But he gets taken in by basically his brother and his sister-in-law. and he starts this journey into kind of, I don't want to say it's like amnesia, because it doesn't seem as quite as strong, but there's some type of mental block in Harry Dean Stanton's head where he can't quite pinpoint, at the beginning of the movie at least, what has gone on and where he's been. So it's about a man who wanders back from the wilderness after being gone for 4 years.
Yeah, dealing with the finding his son again, who lives with his brother and his wife. And eventually, kind of discovering his ex-wife towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 2.5 hours. It is definitely a slow burn. I like how the movie uses space.
Oh,
right?
yes.
And this becomes pretty obvious early on when there's just so much space given to the landscapes. Even when people are framed against them, the people are generally pretty small. Like, the movie just has space, like so much air to it. And I think that ties into the theme of the movie as well, which is really, when you get right down to it, it's about the space between people. It's about the space between Harry Dean Stanton and his brother, the space between him and his son, the space between him and his inexplicably beautiful 25-year-old wife. You're like, Harry Dean Stanton, you dog.
That's exactly what I thought when I saw that
He's
whole
like
movie
60.
scene. I was like,
They're like,
damn,
no,
dude,
Harry,
just
no,
slaying
Harry.
it.
Oh, yeah.
That's the least believable part of it.
It's like some Getaven level,
Jeff, what did you think of Paris, Texas?
Oh man, I struggled with this movie. I really did. Alex recommended it, and Alex knows movies, and he knows great narrative. And
Alex also told us to watch Funny Games. So.
I mean, that's true, but I mean, I forgive him for that because I'm
it's
a good
true.
Christian.
We do, but
but
we
this
just like to give him crap.
But this movie, I understand what makes this movie enjoyable and what's good about it. And I'm going to talk about the positives. Because I don't want to front load it with negative like I did for Videodrome and put you off. So I'm going to talk about the positives of this movie that I enjoyed. I really enjoyed the space, just like Jesse said. I think this movie encapsulates the vast gorgeousness of the American West. This movie felt older to me than what it was. It felt like an old movie, like a movie that like your grandma would say that it was like her favorite movie. Like, hey, Grandma, what's your favorite movie? And she's like, oh, I love Paris, Texas. It's it's a good story about. And you watch it, and you're like, oh, I can see why Grandma likes this movie.
Yeah,
it's so slow, but it utilizes all of its time efficiently. It does tell the story well with what time it has, but I feel like it just kind of drags on personally. It's just not a story I identify with. I find the story itself to be a little bit derivative, and so it tends to not encapsulate the things I like about a movie. So I kind of found myself like, okay, cool, all right, move on.
I could see it. I could see it being derivative if you just like look at it as like, oh, a guy has to reconnect with his son and his wife, but because that could be any number of movie,
Yeah.
But the way that it's presented here, it's presented in a way I've never quite seen before. It's definitely very slow, but it has an interesting softness to it, and I was really interested in figuring out who Harry Dean Stanton was and like what was going on with him. Why is his memory so messed up? And maybe he was lying about it, but I guess he kind of blocked things out.
Yeah.
The only music you hear throughout the whole movie is just Ry Cooder strumming on a guitar.
Fuck yeah.
And I thought I had a thought maybe that he was doing the oh God, what's his name? Director of Escape from New York, John Carpenter. He's doing the John Carpenter thing, where like with John Carpenter, for his movies, he basically just sits there with an electric guitar and just like strums over it as he watches the movie, and like ends up being the soundtrack. So I wonder if Cooter did the same thing here.
So it's funny with Cooter, actually. He went to some of the sets And some of the scenes, I mean, it wasn't really a set, right? It's just like out in the fucking wilderness. But really quick, I want to say Wim Wenders, the guy who directed this film, he did another one called Wings of Desire a few years later, which is like also extremely famous, but also extremely European, like art house film. And so this is like a European filmmaker's take on like Americana. But Ry Cooder listened to the wind and had like a little tuning fork with him, or like a tuning machine, and found that like for the most part, most of the time it was an E flat. So he just tuned his guitar half step down, played off of that, which I just thought was kind of interesting.
Just to like have it have the same key that nature has.
Yeah, just like this weird twang.
That's cool. But yeah, I loved this movie.
Oh, you did?
I actually loved it.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I don't think it was perfect. It ran a little bit long.
Yeah.
But that also might have been me just being tired, because we've been like doing a lot of these long movies with Paul Thomas Anderson and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, especially towards the end, which I won't spoil quite yet. We'll talk about it, but like I think people should see it if you can handle, like Alex says, a very, very slow burn.
Yeah.
But I think it's mostly very well acted. Harry Dean Stanton is great, as is his wife, Nastasia Kinski.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much his brother, I didn't think.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys thought.
His brother's kind of just like he's been in other stuff before. Dean Stockwell, I think is his name. I've seen him in other things, but he's always kind of been, how do I say, just kind of like a side stock character. He was the doctor, I believe, in the original Dune, the traitor in the original Dune, with a little diamond on his forehead. But that's really the only other thing that I can think of him off the top of my head. But I honestly didn't like the performances too much of the sister-in-law and his brother. I thought they were maybe the weakest ones in the movie. And there aren't a lot to pick out. I thought the kid was great, actually.
Kid is actually pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I was like, oh no, a kid. Every time I see a kid in a movie, I'm like, oh, here we go.
So I love the way that this movie uses space. It reminds me a lot of certain shots in There Will Be Blood. These like big, expansive kind of, it's like landscape portrait shots. And then I love the way that Wenders plays with color in the film, either on light in the sky, like a setting sun.
Yes.
Or like
when he's in Houston, and you have those gorgeous like neon pink shots of the sky.
Mm-hmm. And there's moments where he'll like walk into a building. We can probably say this. I don't want to spoil it too much, but you find out that his ex-wife is living in Houston and is working at kind of like a seedy photo booth job.
Let's just say like spoilers from here on out.
Yeah.
I think it's worth watching. I think Alex does as well. I'm not sure about Jeff.
I'm just waiting until you guys done gushing over it.
Okay. So you can
finish
slay it.
talking. No, I'm not slaying the movie. I want to finish explaining why I feel the way I feel. So I'm just waiting for you guys to have your little fanboy moment, and then
So
I'll bring everyone back to reality.
So I love the scenes where he'll be in a room and it's like lit like neon green and there's like white tile in it. And then he'll turn a corner and go up the staircase and all of a sudden everything is bathed in red. It was like there was never any green before. And I just think the camera work and the cinematography and the lighting are very clever to create like a very vibrant and aesthetic picture. And then one last thing, just a little trivia. I was mentioning this to Jeff before, trying to defend myself, wielding all of these factoids. It was Kurt Cobain's favorite movie. It was
I saw that.
Elliott Smith's favorite movie, which, based on their ethos, kind of, their perceived ethos, that makes a lot of sense. And it also was found on Akira Kurosawa's like 100 top movies, which he wrote, I think, before he died. And then someone found that list posthumously. And people started like freaking out about this movie again because it was on there. All the movies that are on the list are great, but there was this one in particular was just interesting to me that he would like this film.
It's weird how it's blown up over the years. It has like 100,000 ratings on IMDb
Yeah.
from people, which means 10 times have seen that at least. But it came out. It had like a $1 million budget, and it made like $2 million.
Yeah.
At the box office. So it was a tiny movie that just gained traction over the years. So people watched it and they're like, "Wow, what's this like art house epic?"
Exactly. Also, it won the Palme d'Or. I don't know how the listeners feel about
Oh yeah,
Best Picture, Palme d'Or, or whatever, but Cannes is. It's a cool festival, and it's very like European, right? Like it has this like Euro kind of charge to it. So
have you been there?
Oh no, I meant the festival.
Oh, damn.
Excuse me. Just like the movies that seem to win.
No, I mean, have you
like
been to the festival?
different? Oh no, I have not. Have you?
Okay. No, I wish.
I would love to go though. If I had the chance to
Let's
go
go.
to the Academy Awards or Cannes, I think I would choose Cannes.
Oh, I wouldn't go to the Oscars. I don't even watch the Oscars.
Yeah.
I'd rather go to a film festival.
I mean, they
We
film
should
it
do
in my
that.
backyard.
The three of us should go to a film festival.
Sure, I think
Be
that'd be a
fucking
lot of
sweet.
fun. Yeah, that'd be a good time.
What were we talking about? What movie?
Paris,
Texas.
Dwayne Johnson's latest Jungle
Oh
Cruise.
yeah, that's right.
Oh fuck.
Jungle Cruise.
Wait. Okay, so Jeff, why is this movie terrible, and why are we
Jesus
bad
Christ,
people?
The projecting in this episode. So Paris, Texas is not a terrible movie by any means. Shot beautifully, all the reasons. That's why I kind of wanted to let you guys go up, because then you'll just kind of pad out all the positives. When I focus on a movie like this, I go, okay, so this movie's going to be quiet. It's going to be slow. I'm into that. I like a slow burn. I like a slow burn in horror more often than anything else. But sure, I'll go with one of these movies. This isn't a genre of movie I would normally gravitate to anyway. So that's already kind of against it for me. But I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a shot. Narrative has to hold some kind of piece of the puzzle of a movie for me. And this narrative is just not interesting to me personally. It's just not there's pieces of this movie that are interesting, like the scene where he's watching the home movies back of his family, and he's kind of having these little like smile moments with his son. Like, that's sweet. There's a lot of sweet moments, but I was really invested in the beginning of this movie in the weirdness. I was like, okay, this guy comes out of the desert in a fugue state. He's totally amnesic to his life. Like, what's going on? I was like expecting some weird shit. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. And
I was too.
It starts with this weird German doctor in this like just kooky. I mean, I was getting like almost Inherent Vice flashbacks in the beginning of just like this weird neon lit hospital room that he's in that just looks like disgusting, with this like German doctor who's like smoking a cigar and going through his shit, and just like it's just so like unsanitary. I was like really into this aesthetic. I was like, oh, where's this going? Are we about to enter this like kind of acid trip world where this guy just wanders from kooky place to kooky place? And I was very invested. And then it kind of just turns out to be like a well shot, well directed romance drama, like melodrama. And it was just disappointing. Like, the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, okay, cool. Him and his son are leaving to go to Houston and find their mom. Is this when like some crazy shit, or is this when Henry Dean Stanton's past is going to catch up with him? Is he running from something? Because even the doctor in the beginning of the movie says, the only people who don't talk are the people who are running from something or who have done something wrong. And I'm waiting for that the whole movie, and it just never happens. Nothing ever happens.
Well, we learn about it through dialogue.
Yes,
at
but
the end.
I will say,
Yeah.
the reveal is not like, it does not match the weight of everything behind it, trying to figure out, well, what happened? What happened? It's just a simple conversation that reveals it.
It's a conversation that about just like, okay, well, I mean, and since we're in spoilers, it's like he was a bad alcoholic. The mother wasn't really there, and then it's like he goes into this whole like narrative about like, and this is where I was kind of confused. Like, just so he ties her up or chains her up, and then she sets fire. Like, she gets away and takes the kid, and then sets
she
fire
escaped
to their
and
trailer.
set fire to the house.
So she was like trying to kill him because he in the house.
Yeah, he was sleeping.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay,
he
that's
woke
what
up on fire.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I had a whole little point there where I was like, was that a dream? Did he dream?
utterly transfixed during this scene. The acting was sensational.
This was the best.
I loved,
This was the best scene in the movie. For
I
sure.
loved it just felt, it was so touchingly human. It definitely elicited some tears from me. I do not mind saying.
Oh,
yeah.
Every
it really
time I
earned
watch that scene, I'd cry just a little bit. And not only because of Harry Dean Stanton, Natasha, or whatever her name is. Holy shit.
She... Just her face. Her face made me cry.
I know.
Couple man tears.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just did not get that same emotional attachment to this movie or the characters. I found it to just be a little too slow.
Well, I wonder if that had to do with expectation, because I knew nothing about this. I saw that it was. I looked at the poster when Alex said we were watching it, and it has Harry Dean Stanton walking down railroad tracks. I saw that it was 2.5 hours. And rated R, and I was like, okay, this is an Alex pick. It's gonna get weird and dark. Like,
exactly.
And then it didn't.
Yeah,
I think I figured that out pretty quickly when I was like, I think what clued me in more than anything was that there was no music besides Ray Cooder's like guitar, and the guitar really sets the tone for the movie, because you're not getting like any dark passages with the guitar. It's very soft and contemplative and just, wandering through America kind of guitar. And I was like, okay, that's the tone of this movie. Now I can settle in.
Yep. I just didn't get. When I was listening to that score, the whole time I thought of like weird, like warped, like you put like acoustic guitar through like a wah pedal or like a warp pedal. I just constantly had this idea of like, okay, like something's going to turn here. And there was these weird moments because Henry Dean Stanton acted this character very well, but very strangely. Because there are scenes, because I found myself oddly transfixed on him the whole movie. I found myself really looking into his character's eyes and its facial expressions. He's a very interesting looking man. And
he's sexy as hell.
I mean,
I'm kidding.
he looks like a piece of meat that was left in the sun too long.
Yeah, he looks like a wet cigarette.
He looks like the guys you see in line for like Carl's Jr.
Oh my
Exactly.
god! Oh my god! He looks like So anyway, he looks like he should be wearing many jackets. This was the type of character that I was really interested in, and I was like, okay, when is things going to get weird? When is it going to be revealed that he was like, he's running? I wanted this movie to get I was waiting for it to get No Country for Old Men. I was waiting for that to drop. I was like, when is it going to get there? And it just never does. And by then, I was just not interested in the story.
It's not trying to.
I know, but it felt like that
Harry
to
Dean
me. I
Stanton
was like,
is the one who killed all those drug dealers at the beginning before Josh Brolin rolls up on
I
him.
just wasn't expecting a very human melodrama. And I
guess this is the dark side of us prescribing movies to each other without any context whatsoever, is sometimes it can lead to like false expectations.
I think the movie gave me false expectations. I don't think it had anything to do with Alex. I think the beginning of the movie set itself up to be this type of thing for me. This type of narrative.
It definitely could have gone in a different direction.
The way that
I saw that too.
The brother comes up and he's like, I was expecting some weird shit to start happening with the brother. Like he's like, all right, something's not adding up. Me and you are going to figure this out together. What's going on with you? What happened to you? Where are you coming from? What happened to you these last 4 years? Instead, he just like takes him to LA suburbia and they like eat dinner. And it's like, it's like, fuck, dude. All right, cool. Okay, so they're in LA now. Well, LA's a weird place. So maybe like he'll wander off in LA or like do something. It's like, oh, okay, he bonds with his son. Cool.
And then they go find mom.
And then it's like, all right, well, now they're leaving. They're going to Houston and they're doing it without the brother's permission. So that's tricky. That's some tricky plot narrative there. They find the mom. Mm-hmm. It's like,
yeah, they find the mom. They have a conversation, and then she's reunited with her son.
I wasn't attached to the characters enough to like delve deep enough into the human drama of it. I was just waiting for something narratively to happen in the movie.
Yeah, no, it's not a narrative movie. The story is very simple. The story is very, very simple. I don't know. Yeah, like I said in the beginning, it's about thematically, it's about the space between people and trying to close those spaces. And the story is subservient to tone and just like sort of hanging out with these actors, like watching Harry Dean Stanton's face as he feels emotions.
But we could have done all of that and delved into something interesting.
Like you wanted him to be like a Texas Ranger, like a bank
No,
robber.
nothing. Like it didn't even need to be like action.
Jeff wanted it to be a Dwayne the Rock
a Dwayne Johnson
plot.
movie. I knew you were gonna fucking say
Or
that.
Guy
I
Ritchie.
got
He
you.
needs to
Totally
jump
got
from
you.
one tower to another to save his wife.
No, I
The
more
tower's
think
got to
it's
be burning. He's got to say a joke, like a
I just
one-liner
wanted
while he
something
does it.
interesting about the characters to happen. I wanted something about the character of Henry Dean Stanton, of Travis, to be.
Is Henry Dean Stanton Harry Dean Stanton's brother?
Shut up, Jesus!
I didn't even catch that, man.
Oh my god!
I just hear Harry
Since
something.
the last 4 times you
Henry
said it
Dean
was
Stanton.
Henry, I had to.
But I think that
Am I needling you too much today, Jeff?
I think that you hit something pretty like important here, Jeff. When we think of the word extraordinary, people use it as a superlative a lot. And when you look at like the actual word, it's very interesting, right? When something is extraordinary. And I think that this film is like more human, I will say, than any other film I've seen that claims, I guess, to be like human, because I feel like our lives are actually kind of boring and our personal narratives are like within us, they are very strong and vibrant, but when you try and tell them to another person, sometimes it falls kind of flat, or like your own personal history just doesn't ring as well as other people's do. So I thought that the movie was very interesting to see, like a very soft and slow uncovering of like, it's kind of like the reticence to be close to people. Like Jesse was saying with the space, it's like, you are my brother. I haven't seen you in 4 years and I don't know what happened to you. So we're going to be like awkward with each other. There's like this weird awkwardness, and you can see it in the brother. He like wants to be like, I'm your brother. You can tell me whatever went wrong, but you don't have to tell me everything if you don't feel comfortable, right? It's like dealing with a person that's familiar but also a stranger. And then you see Harry Dean Stanton try and build up this like narrative about himself and try and figure out what was going on. And it's funny because he catches on pretty quick. So I don't want to say it's amnesia. But I feel like the conversation that reveals what happened, like the part that made Jesse and I cry, I feel like that scene was just so realistic, I guess. And I think in a movie world where, I'm not saying movies are violent or anything, but in a movie world where there's always some like,
I mean, they are.
yeah, where it's like some, what is the phrase? It's like Deus Ex Machina? Deus Ex
Machina?
Yeah, where there's like so many of those, right? And there's so many like little tricks or little flips in the narrative or like things that make everything just fall into place. This movie deprives the audience of that. It takes away all of those things. There's no gun that's going to solve any of the issues. There's no violent act of aggression or passion or exuberance that is going to, solve anything. It's just simple conversations with people and with your past that you try to figure stuff out with. And that's one of my favorite things about this film.
I like how the concept of space at the end is turned on its head, because throughout this time we're talking about the space between people, blah, blah, blah. But their conversation literally takes place in like that phone booth that you're in when you're like watching a peep show. And then she's in this tiny room as well. So it's just these people like trapped in this tiny little environment with each other.
Yeah.
That's all.
No, and then at the end of the
Just
film,
like the inversion.
it shows first the son stand up in the hotel room and the mother like kind of hesitantly standing there as well. and then they come together, right? It's that closing of space between them, and then you see Harry Dean Stanton drive away in his car, which was also a beautifully shot scene as far as color and sunrise or sunset goes. But it's like the movie is all about that space. The space between Texas and LA, the space between, like, the temporal space between your past and your present. And then you see the mother and son, like, hug at the very end of the film, and it's like this, I don't know. I really like that reading, though, of the space. And it's hard not to have that reading when Wim Wenders is like, every shot is like, okay, I'm going to be like 50 yards back from you guys. You're going to walk into this. And like the main characters in or the main focus is like just the landscape. It's like the train tracks going way out into the distance, or the strange rock formations that rise out of the desert in Texas.
You also never go to Paris, Texas.
That is true.
The whole Paris, Texas thing hinges on a photograph that Harry Dean Stanton has of a plot of land he bought, an empty plot that he never gets to. And for me, it was just emblematic of like investing in a future that you're never going to see, you know, or that like, it's like you put so much into this, whether it's monetarily or whatever, only to have it end up being empty or unfulfilled, which is a mirror in a way to how his relationship with his wife and his son ended up. Like, we don't know if he'll see them again, but he doesn't think he's going to. He leaves at the end, you know? So it's just, I don't know, emblematic of a place you want to get to, but you never get to. And so I thought that was very, you know, thematically resonant with his character. Jeff, we love you. Yeah. Come back to us.
Yeah.
Did you leave? Oh, okay.
No, I haven't left. No, I don't really have much to say about this movie. I mean, I really appreciate that you guys love it. It's a pretty movie that's shot well, but I just found its narrative to not be that engaging or interesting.
Didn't rustle your jimmies, huh?
Nope. And so, like, I just found myself kind of waiting for it to end near the end of the movie.
I mean, that is actually fair, though.
You know what? Fair enough. I hate things that, I mean, I know you don't hate it, but I'm not, you know, so keyed in on things that other people love as well. It's funny, Alex, you were talking a little bit ago, and it, like, about how sometimes we tell our life story and it's not as interesting as we think it is. And that made me think of a movie that I hate called Boyhood, that we were talking about earlier.
Wait, do you hate
like
it?
The most boringest thing
ever.
I
thought you liked it. Okay. Yeah, I hated it too.
No, I don't.
I don't know.
Good, you're hired. You're on the podcast.
But yeah, no, Jeff, I definitely, you know, the funny thing is like, I tried to show this movie to people for so long and got like the same reaction. It's not like the movie that really you put on when you're like, hey, let's watch this entertaining movie.
It's not John Wick.
It's not like entertaining or like enrapturing.
It's not what I wanted. It's not what I wanted. I didn't want John Wick.
But it's...
I wasn't talking about you this time. I'm just saying it's not John Wick.
But I definitely see what you're saying. As far as like... I mean, you don't have to be like a father to key in on this movie, but like if you don't buy into the emotional, like, let's say, agreement that is set up in the film between the characters, it is like it's like flipping through postcards of Southwest United States, right? Like, and then you're just like, okay, like,
yeah. If you're not keyed in, if the emotional core of it is not like grabbing you or sucking you into it, then I could see how this movie would be very boring. And I think like it's interesting because I think if you showed me similar movies, I would think a lot of them were boring. It's hard to say why this one works so well. And I think it's just direction and Harry Dean Stanton and the photography. I don't know, just the mixture of elements for some reason just worked, and sometimes it's hard to quantify exactly.
Yeah, that scene is like we were talking a little bit with Paul Thomas Anderson how he lets actors work. I feel like there's a lot of that in this film, especially in like the critical scene when they're in the peep show photo booth and he's like recounting the history to her.
There's so much silence.
Oh my god, that's like one of my favorite things about this movie.
There's like an hour of this movie is like people not saying
Exactly.
lines. Like waiting to say lines. Harry Dean Stanton like just sitting there and you're looking at his face and he's not saying anything.
Yeah, and there's one more thing I will say about this film, and it's that I think that there needs to be more films, not like this in the style of the quietness and the shooting and the slowness, but it is good for society and for humanity, I feel like, when not everything is about being cool in films, if that makes sense to you guys. Like, they're not trying to be edgy, you know, they're not throwing on the leather jacket with the motorcycle and trying to be like, oh, well, life is shitty and that's just the way it is, punk. Like, it's this postmodern like kind of effect that we have that makes things sometimes bitter and ironical and satirical when they don't need to be, when we should all like at least admit that no one likes to be unhappy or cynical all the time. There are moments where you want to be sensitive. There are moments where you want to be open and vulnerable. So I think the fact that movies like this come out every once in a while and are recognized by some critics in some critical sense, it's good for, I just think it's good for humanity. I think it's good for society.
So this movie was made in '84. What, like, do you have any analogs for like recent movies besides Boyhood?
Oh, okay. So like feel good things like this. Not necessarily movies.
I don't know if this is
not
good.
feel good.
It's not like but a quiet human drama, I guess.
Yeah, you know, there's probably movies that I just can't think of off the top of my head right now, but there are a lot of TV shows. There were TV shows like Friends and Seinfeld in the early 90s, which I'm not huge fans of those shows, especially Friends.
You're likening these to Paris, Texas, you fucking animal?
No.
What do you want?
I'm saying that those shows are the epitome of what I don't want. It's like this idea that you just want to be cool, and that like sometimes like, oh, well, this is just the way it is. Like, this is just life, and people are mean and they're bitter and they're cynical. There's a new wave of TV shows like The Office, Parks and Rec, Community, even sometimes maybe Arrested Development, that have moments of softness interspersed with the cynicism. Cynicism for cynicism's sake is just kind of like, ugh, I don't like this. I have a good idea, actually. The way I could describe my feelings towards this movie is I would rather live in the world of Paris, Texas than in the world for No Country for Old Men. If the world of No Country for Old Men was actually that way and so saturated into society, and it was like that like every single day, we would just be offing each other left and right. And I think that the world of Paris, Texas is...
There's a movie theater shooting today in California.
Oh, in Corona. Around here, yeah. It was at one of the Purge things. Also...
So, yeah, welcome to No Country for Old Men here.
Also, really quick, just a little bit of news trivia, I guess. I just found out that Bob Odenkirk happened to collapse on the set of Better Call Saul, the show that he's filming, and is currently in the hospital. So I would just want to say, at least this Reel Weirdo is sending his energy and love out there to Bob Odenkirk, one of my favorites.
Yeah, definitely. Great comedian, great actor. Definitely hope he gets better.
So if we were to reimagine Paris, Texas as like a revenge thriller or something, how would it go?
I'll leave that one to Jeff.
Yeah, I don't think this movie could be that, because it's not meant to be.
What if
it's just...
What if he was just like in the photo booth though, right? And was like, I found you. Like after 4 years of searching.
Oh, the movie gets all like psychologically fucked up and creepy. He just turns into like a weirdo.
Yeah, I mean,
it goes on a killing spree in the peep show house.
But no, Jeff, I think that your feelings are like absolutely warranted. And I was really afraid that both of you would feel that way, but I thought that one of you might feel that way. I just didn't know which one. I didn't know if it was going to be Jeff or if it was going to be Jesse.
I don't really think I've either one conveyed my feelings properly or they haven't been received in a way. I think that's
No, I don't think you're saying the
understanded.
movie's terrible. I think you could recognize too that there's like it's obviously like a well shot movie, right? And you could see why there are certain reasons that it
Yeah, I don't need this movie to be anything more than what it is. I need it to be more interesting than what
Got
it
it.
is. And that's really the key to my point is it can be what it's trying to do, but what it's trying to do is not supported by what I feel are strong actors besides the two main actors, which are really the only ones that matter, and the kid's pretty good too. But the movie overall isn't that well supported or structured in a way that the narrative makes sense to me. Not makes sense, it makes perfect sense in a way that isn't in any way invested or in any way that I care about when it's presented in such a dry and flat manner. When it's just like, okay, well, something here has to be a hook. There has to be something here to make this story worth telling. And to me, there was never anything. This, I think, Jesse, to answer your question about what maybe like a modern equivalent to this movie that I think is much, much better would be like Marriage Story.
yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen that. I want
it's
to.
great.
Like, that's a really amazing piece of human drama that's like well acted and like real and gripping and has like an emotional range that has peaks and valleys to it and has a way that it nestles you and cradles you in this feeling of like, well, at least if you've come from that type of background of something you understand, something that's relatable. In this movie, it fails to be either A, relatable because it's such a unique situation that it presents in the beginning, but then attempts to remedy that by being relatable later about like trying to create connections of fatherhood and family and all these type of and connections with his brother, but these connections aren't strong because it's not presented in a way where it's interesting. It's not presented in a way where there's a reason for it to be being told. It's just presented in a way that's just like flat, and it's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, Marriage Story is definitely like peaks valleys type thing. And it's like though Paris, Texas is like Marriage Story.
It is operating on like a pretty solid emotional tenor the whole time. There's not a lot of, like you say, peaks and valleys to it. It's just like going down the road and looking at the prettiness.
This is a movie that could have been an email.
Could have been a what?
Like, it's just an email. Like, you know what I mean?
What?
It's so
I don't.
it's so much longer than it needs to be. It's like you could have told this type of story in such a less amount of time and still would have kept, in my opinion, encapsulated the exact same amount of information.
Yeah, but I think that they were interested in doing more than just telling a story. Like I said, like we've all said, the story isn't really the main thing that's going on here.
Then what's going on?
In terms of relatability, it's like, and I think I talked about this with villains at some point, where it's like sometimes like I'll have nothing in common with a character, but they'll still be relatable because they feel human. And this is like a very human feeling movie. It almost like, I don't know, it touches this interesting nerve that I don't see movies touch a lot. Or if they do, then they don't do it in like as contemplative and I don't know, that kind of way. I don't know if that's clear or not.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. I just don't agree.
See-
Personally, I'm sorry. I think it's telling a human story, and it's just one that's not that interesting.
I think that Marriage Story, going back to that example, is this movie is like tired, Paris, Texas. It's like it feels almost like the oppressive nature of the space and the landscapes is like, and the distance between people physically and like philosophically is so exhausting to the characters and to the narrative that it's like Jesse said, you're kind of just like, well, fuck, I'm just going to walk down this road.
Yeah, it is exhausting. It is an exhausting movie. I think I looked at the time at one point and I was like, halfway?
I know, seriously.
Oh my God.
See, I got there at about a quarter.
It has influenced, like, some shots here and there have influenced some directors. Specifically, the one that I liked the most was Wes Anderson in the Royal Tenenbaums. He uses kind of like the scene where Chaz, Ben Stiller's character, is flipping through old photos of his deceased wife. He got that like energy and that vibe, he said, from Paris, Texas. But yeah, I like this movie not as kind of like oh my god, this movie is like earth shattering. It's like not that. It's like just this little gem, I feel like, of a movie. It's like almost like a pretty paperweight that you every once in a while you pick up, you look at, and you're like, wow, this is actually very intricate and touching. But it can easily, it like rides that line of like easily falling into just like, what the fuck? Like, is anything going to like happen? Is it like going to make my heart beat any faster at any point?
Yeah.
But for someone like me, at least, this is just a personal thing. I love understated movies like this, and it like was sucking the life force out of me. And then that scene at the end,
You mean
I love
that
the
in a good way,
reveals.
right? Sucking the life force out of you. That could be positive or negative.
Yeah. I mean it in a good way. It like, it calms me, which makes sense. I mean, it puts some people to sleep, right? Like, but there's something about this film that it goes against, I feel like, a lot of the American expectations, maybe, of film. Like, no one's going to be up in the fucking theater hooping and hollering and clapping and shit when this movie's going on.
Harry Dean Stanton eating a sandwich.
Yeah,
Exactly.
But yeah, I think that it's good that films like this exist. And I think that it is one of the prettiest films, I will say. I think music-wise and just cinematography, color, shot-wise, that I've seen.
Yeah, I agree with all of your points.
I agree with half of them.
I back up all of your points. So, Paris, Texas, we got 2 recommendations and a not, I think.
No, I don't not recommend this movie. Wasn't for me, but
yeah,
you know, there are a lot of movies out there that aren't for me that could easily be for somebody else. So I don't recommend nor not recommend it. It's probably just
get a lukewarm from Jeff.
yeah, just something that I won't ever see again.
Did you like it
has
better
good
than
elements, but
Funny
just
Games?
Didn't grab him, which is
I would like getting my nuts stapled to a 2x4 more than Funny Games.
But Jeff, you still have to watch the other one.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Oh boy, something to look
The
forward to.
the sister film. Yeah, we'll have to do another episode. Funny Games.
Christ.
The literal twin sister
boy.
film.
Oh, man. Well, any recommendations, boys?
Yeah, let's do some recommendations. I'll start. I got one. I texted you guys about this a few weeks ago. And I was looking through for something to recommend, and it's called #Alive, and it's from it's a South Korean movie, and it's like a zombie movie kind of thing. And I had seen this on Netflix. I'd like browsed past it, and I was like, "Oh God, a horror movie with a hashtag in the title! Like, get out of here! No way!" But eventually, I was like, "Ah, it's Korean. It might be good. Let's see." And then I was reading a little bit about it, and it was like the biggest movie in Korea for like years.
Wow.
Like it
Sounds
came out
interesting.
before the pandemic, and I don't know.
Really?
And it starts out kind of annoying because you have this kid.
Oh, that's a great way
who's
for a
like,
movie to start out.
he's like a gamer. He's like a closet gamer.
Mm-hmm.
But then the zombie apocalypse happens, and he has to stay alive in his apartment. And it just gets better and better. I'm not going to say this movie's like fantastic, but it does a lot of things really well and earns its little twist on the zombie formula. He meets up with a girl, and there's like they have this cool interplay from building to building and like trying to communicate with each other. And then they end up trying to escape and meeting more characters. And it's just really fun, and it has a lot of fun zombie stuff in it. Get past the first 15 minutes. It's kind of slow, and you might think like, this looks generic as hell. But I think it's
It's
worth it,
glowing
and it's
review.
only an hour and 40 minutes. So it's on
Nice.
Netflix. What you got? What do you got to lose?
What do you get to
Yeah.
lose?
Yeah.
Alex?
Alex?
Yeah, I have one actually that isn't like usually part of something that would be in my wheelhouse. I wouldn't say that I'm like a super fan of horror films just because I don't know that much about them. I still have to watch like the what is it, the Dead Alive or not Dead Alive, the Evil Dead. Like I need to watch that trilogy and everything.
Oh, wow.
They're not going to scare you. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not scary.
You'll love
movies.
them. They're great.
They're fun
But
movies.
they're not going to scare you. Not at age 30.
I saw this movie a few months ago called The House of the Devil. It was made in 2009 by T. West, I think.
Oh,
is how
yeah,
you say
Ty
his name.
West.
Ty, got it.
Yeah.
And it actually, like, it is a cool little callback to, like, some of the 1980s, like, slasher films. But it has, like, the new modern day, like, psychological, suspenseful twist stuff where it's not just, like, gore horror or anything like that. It's decently scary, I would say, for the most part. But my favorite thing about it is just, like, how meticulously well and like clean it is shot. There's like no, I don't know, it's really hard to explain, but I like really enjoyed this movie, and I watched it a few months ago and haven't rewatched it since, but it's always been on my mind.
I saw that movie, I think, 10 years ago.
Okay,
and I
it
really
came out,
liked
I
it.
think, like-
I don't remember it. I think it came out, like 2009 or something.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, my brain forgets so much stuff that's important. But it's like a movie I saw 10 years ago. Oh, yeah, I know what year it came out, and not because it was that year. It's like
It's that real
it's like the
weirdo DNA.
encyclopedic, the retardedly encyclopedic knowledge of things that don't matter.
But yeah,
It's like,
I think it's
who
cool.
played in the band Cradle of Filth in 2002? I can tell you.
I can tell you.
There's no reason for me to know this.
But yeah, I think that actually you guys might have like cooler things to say about the film because I feel like you guys are a little more well versed in the horror genre. So
I don't know, Jeff. Do you watch a super amount of horror movies? I'm not sure, actually.
Not really. I'm a big fan of horror, but horror has taken this particular turn in the last, decade or so that I quite haven't followed down the same road. So,
Yeah, most of them are schlock.
for me, I'm very particular on horror, but I would say I love horror. Some of the first movies I watched were like Friday the 13th and the Chucky movies and stuff like that. Those were like some of the first actual like films I sat down
No,
and
man.
watched.
The glorious Chucky movies.
The House of the Devil is definitely a little schlocky, but I will say because it came in 2009, it plays off this 70s, 80s nostalgia vibe before Stranger Things and It and fucking Finn Wolfhard doing his, oh my god, weren't the 80s so cool? Like,
He's in every horror movie about the 80s.
the 80s, right? It's like,
Or
Jesus
anything
Christ.
about the 80s
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
So yeah, its budget was sub $1 million. It's $900,000, and it only made $100,000 back. So
Wow.
yeah, it's an interesting
Ouch.
little experiment.
Ouch,
But,
indeed.
yeah. So yeah,
It played at like one theater.
yeah, seriously.
It's like in a San Francisco art theater for like a weekend.
They just lost the rest of the prints of the film.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just like, all right, well, we just
Which
lost
would
them,
be
whatever.
fucking impressive for one weekend in one theater to make $100,000. They'd be like, shit.
They would. Well, they charged a lot. They charged like $200.
Yeah.
We need more Mike and I.
Colin, Ike, and Mike themselves have them
Exactly.
deliver
Get
some
Mike
pallets.
and Ike on the phone. Get Mike on the phone. Ike's a cunt. Oh, boy.
You got a wreck, Jeff?
Yeah, I got a couple, and I specifically tailored these towards movies that I felt were like Paris, Texas, but better.
It's like Back to the Future
Nice.
Part 2.
So there's two movies I want to recommend. One of them is called The Florida Project. It's with William Dafoe, Brooklyn Prince, directed by Sean Baker. That's a really great film. William Dafoe, it's kind of like a human drama about
What's it
like
called?
The Florida Project, about like teenagers and a struggling mom and a dad, and like kind of just like a family drama. But
I love some Willem Dafoe.
really, really well. And William Dafoe, I always call him Willem. But I mean, we know that I have a perchance for just pronouncing everything fucking wrong. So Willem Dafoe. I mean, just be William. Yeah, he's really great. And then the other one is called, where was it in my head? I had it right here. Oh, 8th Grade. Bo Burnham's movie 8th Grade. Like another really great A24 movie. Bo Burnham kind of wrote and directed this movie, and it's just a really great little insight onto early 8th grade, pre-high school life, and it's very like slice of life, real grounded project that he did. And Bo Burnham, he really just put his heart and soul into it. So those are my recommendations.
What's the deal with A24? Because my only context with them was you guys talking about it in like our Midsummer podcast. I've heard other people like mention it, but I thought it was just like a horror studio.
No, they're like a new up and coming just studio in general. They're like a new they produce like newer, like more modern edged movies.
They're kind of like Focus. I don't know if you guys remember that company, Focus Features.
They did Lady Bird. They did
The Witch.
Killing of a Sacred Deal. They did Witch. They did Moonlight.
The Green Knight.
Yep. First Reformed.
So things that are shot quality wise like pretty well.
Yes,
yeah.
Like they do quality movies that are like have more of like a modern like focus.
Minari, which I have not seen yet, and I should.
A24 doesn't really do period pieces.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's what you mean by modern. Because I was thinking like with like the Vitch and Ari Aster's movies, it almost feels like they're going forward by going backward in a sense in terms of like they're taking in and utilizing the tools of their forefathers in a way that a lot of modern horror has completely neglected. They're just like, let's just do quick cuts and bad CG and like all these jump scares. And you're just like, get out of here. This isn't horrifying at all. It's just boring.
I think A24 is just a production company that appreciates movies that take their time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paris, Texas probably would have been released by them
yes,
if they had
exactly.
been around back in the day.
Exactly. Paris, Texas would have definitely been an A24 movie. It's like they're into that style of movie.
Well, I might have to look them up. See the list.
Yeah, Florida Project and 8th Grade. Two really great projects that are in the same vein.
Fantastic. Well, that is our review of Paris, Texas. As we said before, 2 thumbs up and a meh.
Yeah,
so
2
not
thumbs
bad.
up and a watch it. I mean, definitely watch it. It has something to say.
Yeah. And blah, 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 blah. Yep, that's us trying to end a podcast once again. Failing. Next week we're talking about Snatch. Jeff's having us watch Snatch.
I know, right? Just to solidify the fact that I am nothing more than a gun-loving slobberfest fucking troglodyte. So yeah, we're in for
it's
Snatch.
Like we're gonna watch Die Hard 5.
Something that doesn't have anything to do with thinking or slow burns. It's all fast burns and quick cuts. Because
it is a very fast movie. It is very much not Paris, Texas.
Unadulterated English Cockney testosterone. And it is so fun. I love it.
Hey, what are you doing?
No, not the film.
Can't give you a review till next week.
I'm just saying Guy Ritchie's, his pantheon.
Yeah, the film's a big piece of crap.
Oh, yeah.
Really. Can't wait to talk about how much it sucks.
All right. We'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
Reel Weirdos signing out.
Later, guys.
Now our podcast is done, and we have to run. We know it is sad, but we had so much fun. Don't be bereft, Jesse, Alex, and Jeff. We'll be back real soon. The Reel Weirdos. We talk about movies for way too goddamn long. Bo 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 bo.